This is a podcast about both having autism and living with someone who has autism. My mom is Sonya, and I'm Josh, and this is Josh Has Autism.
Hey everybody, welcome to Josh Has Autism.
Hello.
Boy, it has been a long time since we've done a podcast, Josh.
Yeah.
It's been one thing after the other, and everybody's so nice to be back with you again. So we have been sick, and it's still. I finally have a voice now, so we can do this. But
you sound sick still.
yeah, I sort of am, but a lot better than I have been.
Yeah.
I didn't have a voice at all for so long. But what happened is that so the grandbabies, your niece and nephew, there's 5 and 7.
Yes.
And, I think probably because after wearing masks for so long, and then now they're in school, Mads and I in particular have been sick. Like our immune systems, I guess, have been thrown off, and we have basically been sick for a couple of months now. Mm-hmm. So we had COVID a while back, but then we had, what's it called?
RSV.
RSV.
That was about a month and a half, 2 months ago.
Yeah, that was the first time we missed. And then after that, it was just one thing after another. I had to have, stitches in my mouth. Like once I thought, oh, this is great, I'm feeling better. I had a little bit of a incident and had to get stitches in my mouth, so my face was all swollen up. I couldn't really do a podcast then.
Yeah.
And then the next week I was sick again, and I've been sick. So, and it's not just like, oh, I don't feel like doing a podcast. It's that I didn't have a voice and was really
contagious
sick.
And
So I was just trying to stay away from you, and it was pretty miserable. But finally, well enough to do a podcast, so it's very nice to be back.
Yeah.
In the meantime, there has been an awful lot that's gone on. A whole bunch of stuff. I can't even remember it all. Seriously.
Yeah.
But and you were sick too. You feeling okay?
Yeah, I'm doing much better now. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Uh-oh. That's the printer. I just printed something. Isn't that weird? Like I printed it. Why is it doing something now when nothing has been done to it?
Yeah, it was like it's preparing to print something, even though it's not doesn't have anything in the queue.
That was weird.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have lived life even though we haven't been doing a podcast. So
yes,
you've been going to work. You've been going to D&D occasionally. You've missed a couple because you had been sick.
Yeah. I had actually, in regards to work, just the end of last week, I guess, was the 52nd week of having at least 20 hours, which is, it was technically the end of my 62nd week. But 10 weeks, I didn't make that 20-hour benchmark. Mm-hmm. But after 52 weeks, which is 1 year, I can start getting paid time off and stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How does that work? Do you get
I honestly don't know yet, because the pay period is every 2 weeks, and that's the end of this week.
Oh, okay.
So I think it's going to come into effect after that.
Yeah, so it should be on your paperwork telling you how many hours. They usually do it in hour increments.
Okay.
I say that, but I don't mean technically 1 hour increments. I think sometimes they can even be broken down to something smaller than that.
Okay.
And then as you keep building up, you end up with days off.
Oh, okay.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But you missed anyway. Sick time or vacation time, whatever. You just could not go to work some.
Yeah.
In the last couple months because of being sick. You missed an entire week's of work.
Yes.
Because you were so sick.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
That's a milestone.
Yeah.
working at a job for a whole year
Yes.
consistently with 20
Yes.
hours a week, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you feel about that?
It's really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's strange because it's December now, but my technically first day of work was not January, oh my gosh, September 27th
Of last year.
of last year.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, 52 weeks in. Cool. That was 10 weeks ago. But yeah, of the 20-hour thing, yes, that's happened just this last week.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. Well, congratulations. That's a big deal. And I don't take that lightly because that means you being together and consistent and reliable
Yeah.
for an entire year. And that's an accomplishment.
Yeah.
Because, we talk about how earlier in your life, how you were able to do things versus what you're able to do now. And this is one of those. You would not have been able to stick with something for such a long period of time, even if it was something you liked.
Yeah.
Because there's things, not the job or the focus itself, but things on the periphery.
Yes. That seem to get in the way.
Yeah. And I think that's the way it is for a lot of people with autism, is that they ask specific questions. Because one of the things that I had to do, even with being sick recently, so I had to fill out some paperwork for Social Security for you. They want specific questions answered that make no sense. So
That can't really
be answered based on you,
yeah.
Joshua King, your particular diagnosis.
Right.
What they don't seem to allot for in these questions is that, okay, it's a straightforward question. What they don't take into account is that it's not that thing that you can or can't do. That's not the question. The question is, on any given day, when you're asked to do that thing, all of these things that are on the periphery, what's happening there? Because those things are going to influence whether or not you can do that or not.
Right. Right. And their questions, like, I don't remember exactly what they were, but they were like along the lines of, on any given day, how many hours do you do this?
They wanted to know, what do you do what do you do from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed? That was the question.
Wow.
It's just
yeah,
not. It's too abstract. But I mean, for anybody, that's kind of an abstract question, right?
Yeah.
For you, it depends. What have you done the day before? On that day before, did you have to work? So therefore, it's the day after work, and you are going to need more sleep than usual to recover from the day working before.
Right. Are there any plans during the day?
Yeah.
Was I told the night before that there was something going on? All that stuff.
Are the kids going to be here?
Oh my gosh.
You're going to make me cough. Right. Things like that, it makes a big difference. And what I try to explain to them as well, that they don't seem to make room for, is that work for you is not like work for somebody that does not have autism. So for you go in and you go to work, and all of that that's going on around you, you're taking in. All of it.
Yeah.
And so when people say sensory overload, that's exactly what it is, because you're more aware and in tune, and it's just more information that you're taking in than that I would take in.
Right.
And
that brings me up to another good point of it, though, is that having, like, going to work, I have to get into the right mindset to be at work, and that and that it's a different mindset than here at home, and it's
Yeah. And I would say that employers that have somebody like you specifically, I've seen, they're all, look, I've known a lot of people with autism because of you. And one thing that I can say that I've observed that is consistent is because there's a need for things to be regimented.
mm-hmm.
When there's a job, they're going to show up at the job, and they're going to do that job, and they're going to do their best to get it all finished and in the way that it's supposed to be done. The thing is that people don't talk about a lot is that because you have to be in the right mind frame, you show up to work about an hour early every day.
Yeah.
And what do you do when you get there?
For me, part of what I do is just read. Like, I'm not focusing on anything else really. I'm focusing on what I'm reading, because the reason I do that is because I'd almost call it like a vegging out kind of thing. I think is what it's called. Anyway, it's like meditation for me almost.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, it clears my mind of all issues I may be having or whatever, and
Sorry.
Wow, those airplanes.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody else can hear this. We have jets flying overhead because we're next to the military base. So usually 2 jets at a time, 2 firefighters.
2 fighter jets.
Fighter jets. I was going to say firefighters flying through the air.
If firefighters are flying through the air, there's something wrong.
Or they've got some of those. They're wearing those packs. Have you seen that? I saw a video of this the other day of a guy wearing one of those packs on his back, and he could fly around with just the pack on his back. It was cool.
You mean that has a the big tube leading into the water or whatever, or one of those?
No, he was wearing this backpack that I guess had an exhaust out of it, but it had handles that he was holding on to,
mm-hmm.
and it lifted him up, and he went a ways and then sat back down, went back down to the ground. It's pretty cool.
Oh, okay.
It's like one of those
James Bond things.
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. It's one of those futuristic things that I guess is actually happening now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So what was?
I don't know.
Meditation.
Oh yeah. So this is what I was going to say is that you going to work and reading reading is like your form of meditation.
Yes.
It really calms you down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It settles my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So question is that when you get to work, do you excuse me, do you go into the library and sit and read?
Yes. There's a staff lounge or whatever where you usually can go and eat lunch or whatever. That's where I have a little locker there.
Mm-hmm.
And
so you go in there, so you're away from everybody, so you're not around the patrons or anything. You're in your own
it's staff
area.
only, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Excuse me. And it's funny because it's actually colder in there than it is in the main library.
Do you like that?
No, not
like
in winter.
Yeah. You stay kind of warm though. Your mitts are always so warm. You're always taking my hands and warming me up.
Yeah. But yeah, so whenever I read, it's like you said, if I could talk, it is like a form of meditation, and I've never actually thought of it like that before, and because that's really what it's almost like it's meditation where I can imagine the things happening. So, and that makes so much more sense that it's like meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not seeing the words, I'm seeing it actually happen. in my head, and it's
I would be interested that anybody's listening to this. When you read, if you see it and happening instead of the words, let us know what that's like for you.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I think that's the way it is with a good book. Just kind of carries you away. Also, it's been said that a good book, when you're done with it, it's like it can feel like a sense of accomplishment because you're done with a book, but it's also sad because you've spent all this time with these characters and you know them, and and whatever emotion is brought out from a book is you feel towards it kind of draw you in. A really well written book can draw you in.
Yeah.
Like that. But you've said this before. You're reading the words, but I picture it, you like a movie. Like, seeing like how you're reading, but you're actually right in front of you.
Yeah.
Like there's some movies that start off with somebody reading a book and then you go off on this adventure.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's what it seems like when you talk about it.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that I'm physically moving pages, and so I'm seeing the words, but I'm not registering that I'm actually seeing words. Because I'm actually seeing what's happening, which is really cool and weird, but cool. But
that's awesome.
Yeah. So I actually set an alarm to go off a minute or two before I'm supposed to start work, so I can finish reading, get my little tag, has my name and stuff on it, put it on, and head out to where I need to sign in. And
cool.
Yeah.
And it's super important for you to get there early to be able to do that.
Yes, very much so.
So, often do you feel stressed at work?
Occasionally, but not normally. Part of that is because of the people I work with, and people I work with are really cool people. And
we've talked about that before, about how you thrive because of the environment that you're put in. But also, while we were away from the podcast, during that period of time, it really became very clear. Okay, so it's not that it wasn't clear before, but sometimes certain things happen that really go, oh, that's still super important in your life. That really has to be the way it is in order for things to be okay. And that is that you have to have time for transitions.
Yes.
And I can't even remember now because I've been,
sick.
Yeah. And so I can't even remember exactly, but there's been a number of things, a number of situations where we were all reminded how important it is for you to have time to adjust for changes, that something being sprung on you just doesn't work.
Right.
You hurrying,
it will stress me out.
Oh my gosh. If I ever am telling you, come on, let's go, I might as well be telling you, hey, slow down. Because if I'm rushing you, it seems like the slower you go, because it's stressing you out, and then you don't function very well.
Right. Yeah. It's you saying come on is like pouring more and more jam into a gear or whatever that's called.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it's just not
tar into it. That's it.
Yeah, tar.
It just makes it harder and harder to work through.
Yeah. And so since it's happened a number of times since our last podcast, is there anything like you understand about yourself when it comes to these like changing, like directions. Like you have a regimen.
Mm-hmm.
You do very well in a regimen. If something changes or you're asked to change, because it seems like, and I'm sorry, I just don't remember, but I do remember this, that it seems like there was an aha that you had when it comes to your thought patterns and kind of an insight as to what happens. Not so let's just say it's not as easy to say that you don't like change.
Right.
There's far more to it than that. And I know that you kind of had an aha.
Yeah.
about
I actually
that.
wrote some of it down.
You did?
Yeah.
Cool. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Because it was that big of an aha thing that I wanted to be able to remember it and
Okay.
share it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it's talking what I've written down
Okay.
is talking about my mindset and whenever it's trying to change thoughts or whatever, change gears.
Is this one of the times, because you had a doctor's appointment, I remember, and you were in the doctor's appointment and you came out of that with a new awareness.
Yes. That's when that happened.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, what is it?
So it's that when I'm thinking, I'll have multiple threads of thought going at one time. Like, because there's so much stimulus going on around me, I'll have lots of different branching thoughts that will. I'm trying.
Oh, okay. Can we break it down, or should you just read what you have and we'll go from there?
Let me read it first, and then
Okay.
I'll explain it.
Okay.
So when I'm thinking, I'll have multiple threads going at once, both branching off of and intersecting again with my main thought process. This process is all going along the same line of thought or flow. So trying to switch my way of thinking is just like an actual river's flow, very difficult and takes time to change.
Okay.
So to break it down, the threads that I'm talking about, having multiple threads of thought going.
Mm-hmm.
So think of it like this, where you start a tunnel,
Mm-hmm.
and you think something might be off this one side. So while you're focused on trying to go towards this one way, it's like a ooh shiny kind of thing, and the thought process will branch off a little bit to.
Like a distraction? Do you mean a distraction?
That's one thing that it could be. Yes.
Okay.
But so now there's two
Tracks.
Two tracks.
Okay.
And each of those tracks might have other little branch offs that lead from those thought processes.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them end really early because I can't multitask that well.
Mm-hmm.
So they can intersect with one another again, where one of them might be the main thought process, but if I think of something that's really interesting or important from the other branch, that becomes the main line of thought. But they can branch off at any point, they can come back together, which is really nice when it happens, because then it's like a really cool, hey, this works kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's constantly happening because there's so many thoughts going through my head. So many, just so rapid fire that's almost what it's like, is like multiple threads going at once. And so that's one thing that I'd want to point out, is that it's really hectic.
In your brain?
Being me, yeah.
Yeah, right.
But yeah.
So my question is that when on the outside, if I were to ask you to do something, excuse me, I have to stick to kind of one step at a time.
Yes.
I can't give you 3 steps to accomplish and expect you to go and do that and have them all done. You do better just by one step at a time.
Yes.
And you do one step, you come back and unless, which is why we talk about the library so much being a great job, there's a routine.
Yes.
You know what comes next from the
Right.
very beginning, and this is where you thrive. When you know what's going to happen next, when you know what the rules are, because you love rules, you do best that way.
Yeah, it's kind of along the same lines as if I'm cooking a single dish of something, where I can follow the step-by-step rules perfectly fine. But it's trying to do multiple things all at once
Right.
that it can become very convoluted and messed up.
Right. So on the outside, it's important for you to have instructions or directions in small doses.
Yes.
But what's happening in your own mind when just as you go through life, what you're saying is there's multiple streams of thought at the same time.
Whereas even when there's one main thought process, but at the same time, all these different threads of thought are all going in the same general direction. So, like a stream or river, whatever. And so, if something comes up where I have to think in a completely lateral manner to what I'm thinking then, it takes time for me to be able to switch gears, or however you want to say it, to change that flow of thought to this new thing to focus on, of this new direction to go.
Does it feel like with you there's like a this or that? Like if you're thinking on something, doing something, focused, it's this. So therefore, that's all your focus. You can't do that, which is like a next lane over or the next river over, whatever it is.
It's... Oh, excuse me. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
That question put you to sleep.
No. So, if it's along the same lines, it's easier to merge the lanes, so to speak, of those two thoughts. However, it's whenever something either unexpected or going to work and being at work. All the things I have to do there, it's all one stream.
Okay.
But something unexpected happening where I'm having to get out of the mindset of I'm working will throw me off. And it'll take time for me to get back into that groove of being at work and working. So, but there's a lot of different things I do at work that would be considered in that groove. So there's multiple things that could be parallel to the strings of thought.
Because it's all in the same direction.
Yes.
It's all like contained in that.
Yes.
Okay.
And so having something Nana being whenever Nana got really bad and was leaving us, I was at work. And I couldn't really function once I realized that that's happening. And so I had to leave work. Dad came and got me from work.
Because we knew it would be too much for you to have to drive with what was happening.
Right.
And
part of it was shock. Another large part of it, though, was that change in thought process, that trying to switch gears. from being in work mode to unexpectedly worrying about Nana.
Well, and what happened is he just showed up to get you.
Yeah.
Because there was no easy way to do that, and it was emotionally difficult. But what you're saying is that an added part of that is that to be like uprooted from the deep focus that
Yes.
you were in,
Yes.
to switch to something else. Well, in that case, it was for something that was very emotional then.
Yes.
But it's just really hard for you to switch gears that fast.
Right. And it's not even that it's... It is... I'm trying to find the right words for this. I'm sorry.
No. That's okay, but we always just kind of seem to use the
phrase shifting gears.
Yeah, shifting gears, but also that you don't like change.
Yeah.
It's just been something that we've said for a very long time because it is true, but it sounds like what you're saying is there's more to it than that, and what you're discovering is there's more to it than you just not liking change.
Right. It's very difficult to get into the newer mindset, especially when it's an unexpected change of mindset. Or change to get to the new mindset.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes with people with autism, it's kind of like the time, like society doesn't give people time to, change their mindset, to be able to move into a new thought, to be able to process. Right. Everything is so fast now. I mean, think about all the fast food. Everything is like right now.
Yeah.
Everybody wants everything right now.
Yeah.
You look at it.
News reports.
Yeah.
Brand new. This is happening.
Yeah.
Wow. It shoved right in your face.
Yeah. Super fast. It's it's the attention span seems like for just our country it's just kind of small, like dwindled, right?
Yeah.
So people are not just, I would say, on a regular basis, not being given time to process, and that's something that you have to have in order to be okay.
Yeah, it's a way of putting the society thing is shock and awe.
Yeah,
is a good way of putting that. But sorry.
Because what you're saying is basically everything is, oh, look at this, oh, look at this, oh, look at this.
It's a sensational thing, yes.
Yeah.
It's, hey, they need to do something even more fantastic to be able to get your attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you're saying, as fantastic as it could be, if you're already thinking about something, you're going to need time.
Yeah.
You don't like surprises. You've got to be told what's going to happen before it happens.
Right.
So, for example, around here, if Dad's going to need your help, you guys are building a space out back that's just going to be gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's a space for you to be able to go away from all of us. It's away from the kids when they're here. It's away from,
Yeah.
So it's going to have a couch. It's heated and air conditioned, and it's got a library he's building there on one wall.
Yeah.
And so you're working with him on that. What happens is you have to set a time to do that. He can't just say to you, hey, tomorrow we're going to work on building the shelves.
Right.
He's got to say to you,
what time I should be ready to start.
Yes, that he would like you. So I would like for you to be ready to help me at 10 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
That means you know what amount of time you need to get up and get ready and get focused.
Yeah. Now,
he did tell me that when you were out there, he was describing things to you, and it wasn't clicking.
Right.
So he was trying to describe how the shelves were going to go, how the walls were going to go, I guess, next to that or something, and it wasn't clicking. And so he said that the two of you ended up talking for about 20 minutes, at least.
His words were, we wasted 20 minutes trying to talk for me to explain things to him from his perspective. Yes, that's what he said.
So, from your perspective, it wasn't wasted, it was necessary.
It was necessary because I had no idea what he was doing. And I know Dad, if he thinks he understands something, he's going to go do it. He's not going to explain it. He
does just get things done.
Yes.
So, yes, one of the issues that you have of you and your dad working together is that he just does it.
Yeah.
And you need explanation. You need to know what's going to happen first, what's the reason, and what you're going to have at the end, and the expectation, and the everything about that. And you will not get started until you're comfortable knowing what is going on. I've
seen, and the reason for that with this is I've seen Dad go out and cut wood for the beams and stuff like that. Go bring it in. And then later realize, oh crap, I didn't have to do that, or I cut it too short, or whatever. Whereas if he had just talked it out, I would have been able to help him with that and let him know, hey, this shouldn't be like this. Or that this will be too short if you cut it right here. And
yes,
and he'll get frustrated if he does do it and it doesn't come out right or whatever.
Exactly.
So I'm trying to save him both materials and stress.
And so from Dad's point of view, the description that you just gave has happened. I've seen it happen. It's rare that happens because your dad really knows what he's doing and does it well. From his point of view, when he says wasted the time, it's because in his mind he thinks, well, we could have had,
this
4 shelves put in already.
Yeah.
Instead, we sat around and talked about it.
Yeah. Instead of doing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's not one that's good and one that's bad, one that's right, one that's wrong. It's that you both operate differently.
Yeah.
And
we've butted heads so many times because of that.
Yeah. He gets very impatient.
Mm-hmm.
That he's telling you what's going to happen, and you stop him and tell him what's a better idea, or you need to have more information about it. Yeah. And sometimes I'm out there too, and we're just talking about the space that's being created for you out there.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, it's being called the Zyberry because. It's a library. There's lots of shelves being put in there.
Yeah.
But Connor thinks that it should also have every animal ever in there. So it's a zoo also. So he thinks that it should. He says that we need to call it a Zyberry. So and you're right. So look, there's 4 dogs here. Maybe that'll make him happy enough. Tons of squirrels, birds.
Oh my gosh.
A raccoon. Remember that raccoon was...
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't help because I put little bowls of peanuts...
For the squirrels.
For the squirrels. And then I've seen birds come and take the peanuts. And there's special peanuts. There's no salt on them. Oh, cool, so they're specifically for the wildlife.
Yeah, they're shelled peanuts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, they have shells.
Yeah.
Wait,
Wait a second. Shelled peanuts. When I hear the term shelled peanuts, I think that they don't have shells. But you're saying that it's called shelled peanuts if they have shells?
As soon as I said it, I was like, wait a second. Isn't the term of taking the shells off of peanuts also called shelling peanuts?
I don't know. It's just like rye bread. It's called seeded.
What?
Does that mean it has seeds or it doesn't? You know, like rye bread, those little things you don't like?
Yeah.
Those little seeds in there?
Yeah.
That's my favorite. Like, I want the bread to have that in there. But I can never remember which one it is. So if I'm going to buy rye bread, I have to look through the thing, like the packaging, to see if I see any seeds. Because it says seeded. Is
Or
the name of it.
unseeded is another one.
No, I just think it said, I haven't seen, oh. No.
Yes,
No,
yes.
I think it's just seeded. I don't know, but I can never remember. But shelled peanuts, I think that means they don't have the shell, right?
Yeah,
Don't you think so too?
Yeah.
Anyway, they have the shells and they
Yes.
love it. And then what they do though is they're very ungrateful because they crack them open, they throw the shells everywhere, leave a mess that I have to then sweep up.
This isn't that one restaurant.
That you throw the peanut shells on the floor. What's that called? I don't know. Some steakhouse. I don't remember. Anyway, yeah. So, without you being out there with Dad, is a very good point that you both have a different way of communicating.
Yes.
And a different way of processing.
Yeah.
He's very fast. He's like, boom, 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 let's get this done.
Yeah. He sees what he needs to do, so he goes to do it.
Yes.
Whereas, for me, in this kind of situation, I don't know what's going on. I am going to try and be helpful if I can, but I need to understand what's going on and how it's supposed to happen and why.
Yeah.
So that I can know where things need to be and
Right.
where I can help out best.
And what I was going to say, is that sometimes it feels like no matter how much conversation we have, you're not ready to get started on something. That's how it feels on our side of things. So, what are we missing when that's happening? Because I don't think that you're just being difficult. Right. I really do see that you're needing something that we're not giving you, and even though we try to explain it in different ways, what is it? Or is it just as simply you don't want to be doing it? And so it's hard for you to retain what you're being told because you really don't want to be doing it.
I mean, that does happen.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, and I say that. I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean,
right.
Look, if you don't want to do something, you don't want to,
Right. It'll be difficult for me to focus and retain it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's no easy answer for that. What was the question one more time? It just, oh my gosh.
I still have brain fog. What did I just ask you? Oh, about doing something, like about being able to explain it to you in an effective way.
Right.
Because if there's something you don't want to do and you're just not going to,
Right, so what is the question then?
How best can, what do you need? Because there's something, look, it's very frustrating. It's like this clash, right? Mm-hmm. It's like you're needing time when you go to work. It's a good example. You're going to go to work, you go early, you focus, and then you're at work.
Yes.
When we're having you to help build your space out there, which, by the way, in my opinion, is very fair to ask for your help to build your space out there. Because we wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't for you. Right? And it's a good place for you to be able to go and escape.
Yeah.
Now, what would be better for us to offer you than what we've been doing? Which is we try to give you enough time. You go out there, he explains stuff, or I explain stuff. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it ends with us just going, just do it. Right?
Right.
Very frustrating. It can be very frustrating for all of us.
Yeah.
how can we better help you to get started on something like that?
Well, for one thing, knowing when I need to start is a huge help. I'm not saying that you don't. I'm saying
Sure.
yeah.
But if he's coming to you a couple of days ahead of time, saying, this day I'm doing this and I would like your help with it, what time works for you? What time can I count on you being out here to help me?
Is not going to help me days later. It's best if the latter half of the day before.
Okay, so reminding you. So if we say, let's put this on a calendar, and then the day before he reminds you of it, that's what's best.
Yes.
Okay.
Not just say, hey, you need to be ready at this time. As a demand kind of thing. No. Double check that time would still work. So it's...
Do you know... I know that what you're saying is true for you. And I know that you don't try to be difficult in these situations. I don't know if you're going to understand this or not, but being on the other side of things, when we're counting on you to be there with us to do something that you've agreed to do, it can feel very, very frustrating for that to be so fluid all the time. And if you're not feeling it, it doesn't happen. If, there's all kinds of reasons and I mean, you explain it, but it can get very frustrating not being able to, I'm putting this in quotes because I don't know what other word to use, but to rely on you to be available when you say you're going to be available. And because we're talking about your thought process and about changing things, if you're supposed to do something that we've discussed, that we've arranged, and it's a certain time and you know about it, and you get up to go and do that, it's a big question. You can probably tell there's frustration, that I'm having frustration in coming up with the right words to ask this question, because I don't want to make it sound like I don't want to make you feel like I'm bashing you or anything.
Right.
What I am saying is that if we've done everything that we know that you've asked us to do, and we're just asking you to take part in this. Mm-hmm. First of all, look, you are very strong, right? There are some things that I can't help Dad with because I'm not big and strong enough.
Right.
But you are like a bear. Mm-hmm. You're very strong.
Yeah.
So what happens to make it so that if what are we missing? How can we set up this scenario so that it's easier for you, so you feel better, so when you show up, you're able to help with the things that we're trying to do?
So you're asking me to...
I don't understand why, if your thoughts have to be, if you have to be prepared, you have to give it. So if you've been given advance notice, if you've been given a time, if you've been told what we're going to be doing, which we do, and then we tell you the day before, then we tell you the day of, even. Where is the breakdown? And you will show up sometimes, but you're not able to do the thing that we're asking you to do? Is it because the thing that we're asking you to do is so unfamiliar?
This is another issue I have, is that if I try and ask you to say what a question is again, you don't just ask the question again. You explain you elaborate in a different way, just because you're so used to doing that.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Okay.
Don't elaborate unless I ask you. Because it is me trying to focus on what the question is going to be, so I can answer it for you. Having all that background information in a different way, while normally, yes, it would help if I was trying to find something out. To find out what the question was doesn't.
Okay, so I'll narrow it. When we ask you to help us to build this place that you're going to be hanging out in, what's the problem that keeps you from helping us?
Okay. There's a couple things. One is that heartburn, jeez. One is that if I have to work later that day, if I'm let's say I start work at noon, and you know that I try and get there an hour early. But I also try and plan things out so that I am ready to go and be there by that time.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to get up to get ready to go to work or whatever,
mm-hmm.
and then being said, hey, can you help us with this for a little bit?
But that doesn't happen.
It has happened. I'm trying. It's not. It's not that it's hard work or anything like that. It's that it's unexpected. I'm trying to get in the mindset of working at work, and having the time to prepare for that. So having that interrupt that thought process stresses me out, and it just throws me off really big time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. Sorry,
No, that's okay. That's okay. I know that it's complicated, and this is a subject that I'm really pretty baffled by, because we have done everything that we know how. We have gone along your schedule, along your guidelines, along what we can and can't do, and we've stayed within that parameter. And we don't ask you to help on work days anymore because you've said that that's too much for you, so we don't. So we ask for your help on a day that you're off. And we don't know what else to do to get you to... And honestly, it does feel like a lot of times, like, I would say that it looks like and it feels like you just don't want to help us. But I can also say that there's something happens. There is something that is happening that reminds me of the abstract question or statement of clean your room. It's like it's too big for you, so you have to break it down and make it smaller for you to get it. But there's something has happening when I see you out there doing this with us, moving things around and building this, creating a space for you. It's creating anxiety in you. So I'm not saying that, oh, you're being a jerk because you're not helping us out. Might feel that way sometimes, but but that's
Right.
that's not yours to deal with. All right. What I don't get is what is happening. I don't know what's happening because we can do all of those things that you're asking us to do. We can follow them to the letter and give you the best, most optimal opportunity for success here. And you go out back and you're in this space and it looks to me like you're overwhelmed, and it looks to me like your anxiety is shooting through the roof.
Both are true.
And I don't know why. It's difficult when we provide the safe place for you. And we do everything we can that falls in that safe place. So if you need a talk for 20 minutes, Dad's going to go, like he really is feeling like, oh, we're just wasting 20 minutes.
Right.
But he's willing to do it because it's what you need.
Yeah.
If you're given all of these things, like a safety nets, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is still happening? Because I don't know how else to help you in that situation.
Right. So I know that one thing that happens is that I'm being asked to make decisions for things out there when I can't even visualize what you're asking me about.
Okay. So us thinking that we're being considerate because it's your space,
yes,
ultimately.
Yes, and you are being considerate. It's that you're asking me for something that's too abstract.
Okay.
And that it's really putting stress on me, which is then stressful for you because I'm not able to answer that, and it's just piles on both of our stresses.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of times where yes, I can be out there to work, but not every day that I'm not working at work. And you've recently understood that. I want for it to be said on here that so that people listening can understand that too. That just because there's free time doesn't mean that it is free time. To me, at least, because I need that. I need some time to be able to recuperate, to be able to not be. I don't want to say not be social, but
Sure.
I'm not coming up with the words, so.
Now I get what you need. Is that you need downtime.
Yes.
But even doing something
like D&D
is not necessarily downtime for you.
Right, it's a different kind of. Yes.
I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to try to say this. Sometimes it feels like understanding your rules are an impossible task for us. Because we want for you to be okay, but we also want for you to be available when you say you're going to be available. And it's a frustrating place to be because just like what I just talked about with work and about Social Security, saying, can you do this thing? Yeah, you can do this thing. If you're asked to be out there at 10 o'clock to help do this, can you? Yeah, you're there. But what's going on in the periphery?
Right.
So it's the same thing. And sometimes that's from this side of things.
You just gestured to yourself, by the way.
Yeah, this side of things, like for myself and your dad. It can feel like we don't know what to do. Because we don't know what stressors are happening at any given time.
Right.
Like I can look at you. There's this thing that happens, and I don't know how to explain it, but I can look in your eyes, and I know when you've had enough of something. I know when you're just not able to go any further, whether it's conversation or it's work or it's a situation or it's whatever it is.
Right.
Like if we were at a store and something was going on, I could just look at you and go, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Right. I get that. You're mine. Right. You're my kid. So it's just something that I get.
Yeah.
What I'm really been struggling with is being able to understand you and what happens day to day that makes you either have the ability to show up or not.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same stuff from the time when you were a kid. I just don't know what the answer is. Because like Social Security, when they're asking a question, you can answer the question, can you work? Yes. It depends on what's going on around you as to whether or not that's going to be successful.
Right.
You've landed in a spot that is very controlled.
Yes.
In your job.
Yes.
It's ideal for you.
Mm-hmm.
Dad and I working out there to build you your Zyberry.
Yeah.
We don't know how to make it this controlled atmosphere for you to be able to be comfortable.
Right.
And the only thing that I can think of is that when you're building something, when you're creating, do you put a regular door or do you put a barn door? Do you put 3 shelves or do you put 4 shelves? Do you put 3 sections or do you put 4 sections or 2 sections?
Right.
Where do you put the front door? Where do you want a window? Where does the most light come in?
Right.
The roof is angled this much to give you an 11-foot ceiling on this side, a 7-foot ceiling on this side. Pretty great. How do you want things to be? Where do you want things to be placed?
Right.
I understand that all can feel like, whoa, you're just making my head spin.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
When I break it down and when your dad breaks it down and we come to you and say, we've already got this figured out. We just need your help to hold something. It feels like sometimes that is overwhelming too. And I don't know why. The only thing I can think of, you're giving me a look of, I don't know. The only thing I can think of is because there's too many moving parts at that point.
That can be part of it, yeah. There have been times where that's happened, where it isn't necessarily that it's a lot of moving pieces out there, where it could. I've had it happen where I'm planning on something, so I have to start getting ready at a certain point. 5-10 minutes before that point, hey, come help us with this. It's not even that it's doesn't. I'm saying that happened once.
Right, because it doesn't happen because we know what you need. We know what where your comfort zone is. And this is specifically what I'm saying. If I'm missing something, just say it here, okay? Because what I am saying is we do everything we can to work within your comfort zone, to be able to help you, to be able to help us with the things that
Right.
It's reasonable to ask you to help us with these things.
Right. And there are times where even if it would be reasonable that I just can't. I know it sounds so... Oh my gosh.
No, what you just said is what is life.
Yeah.
That's totally, yes, I get it. That's exactly what I'm saying. Is that if everything looks like it should work, why doesn't it work?
Yeah. Turn it off and on again.
Yeah, jiggle it. I don't, like the wires, right? Yeah, just jiggle it. I don't know. I can't figure this out. And what I'm saying is that from our side, oh my gosh, Josh, it's so frustrating to have a schedule planned around what works for you and to be relying on you on that particular time because you agreed to it.
With a schedule that I don't know where it's at. Dad wrote out a schedule with me. I have no idea what happened to it. But anyway, yeah, sorry. Sorry. What?
I guess that's just... You know what? That's not what I'm talking about.
I know, that's what I'm not focused on that.
Okay, but what I'm talking about is there are times that you know about and it's been scheduled. And it's right in the backyard. And you know what's going to happen. You know that we're going to be, for example, working on whatever, shelves or, drywall, whatever, insulation, I'm asking you, do you know of a way that's going to work better? Because we don't know what else to do because we've done everything according to what you say you need. Even like this. You pointing out, yeah, it's written down on something that I don't know where it is. That's not what I'm talking about. Dad had this book. He wrote it down. He told you where it was located. It's right here. This is where it's going to be. But if you're asked to be out there at 10 o'clock in the morning and you've agreed to be out there at 10 o'clock, when you get out there, what happens to make it so that you say, I can't do this today? What happens? What's going on then? I can see you're frustrated. I can see you're overwhelmed. I don't know why.
If you just asked me a question, I have no idea what it was.
You don't know that was a question?
No.
Okay. I'm asking... Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. When you're asked to be out there at a certain time and you've agreed to that and you show up, oftentimes you say, I can't do this today. Do you have any idea what's happening inside of you or in the environment that's causing that to happen?
Sometimes, yeah. But it has so many different factors to it that I'm having difficulty putting it down to something.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm sorry.
I get what you're saying, and it is a frustrating situation that I don't, if you don't have the answer, you don't. Just, that's just the way it is. Yeah. It would be helpful for us to know.
Yeah.
Because, like everything else, we try to make things work. We try to help you to be as comfortable as possible and to be able to be functional at the same time. And I know that sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but there seems to be a pattern of being out there working in this space that doesn't work for you. And I just thought that maybe you had an idea of what that was. So we could create a different scenario that feels better.
Right, right.
That would lead to you being successful in that particular, on that particular day, building that particular thing.
Yeah. I don't have an answer for you.
Okay.
Sorry, I
Okay.
don't.
Okay.
I'm about tapped out.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I got it. I know. It was a heavy-duty questions there at the end here. I get it. All right. Well, if there's a way that you can maybe possibly think about that when I'm not in your face asking you the questions, that would be cool. All right. Hey, if anybody out there has any input, suggestions, Richard, I'm speaking to you. In particular, our friend Richard helps us a great deal with these kinds of situations, and he has great insight.
Yeah.
Yes, so if anybody can help us out with that, that will be so helpful, because we're frustrated on our side, and then I know that you get frustrated on your side,
Yeah.
and then
it feeds each
yeah,
other.
it's just
feeds
yeah,
together,
it can be pretty difficult, but So anyway, let us know if you have any input into this particular situation. Otherwise, it is wonderful being back here with you. We appreciate you so much. We hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving, and
Wow, it has been longer than that. Hasn't it?
has.
Wow.
It has been a while.
Yeah.
So
Thanksgiving's only in the U.S.
well, and across the world, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. For the rest of you, hope you had a nice Thursday.
Yeah.
Yes. So anyways, hope that you're happy and healthy and you're doing well, and we will talk to you next week. Love ya.
Bye.